Everyone picture someone in their life who you would bet on. You believe this person's going to be healthy, wealthy, and in love. Close your eyes, everybody, and think of the person that 10 years from now you think has the highest probability of statistical success in being healthy, wealthy, and in love in 10 years. That person that you chose, I am willing to bet, has very high conscientiousness.
And most couples will have someone that's extremely high conscientious.
Yes.
And not as much.
Yep.
Of course, you two aren't going to be the same exact
Yin and yang.
humans. And
Yep.
that is important. You guys balance each other out for multiple different reasons. Now, when we talk about what allows that to be possible, it genuinely is development of the brain. So like I was saying, the mental gym. Conscious couples, business partners, and individuals, welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and relationship expertise to help you consistently cultivate the most magnificent relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges. We'll help you have the courage to be your authentic self, communicate effectively, and constructively resolve conflict.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching, speaking, podcasting, and hosting live events with conscious couples all over the world, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals from all over the world, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast for conscious singles as well. Today we have episode 201, so we just came off our 200th episode. We're still celebrating a little bit here.
Yeah.
The most important character trait to having a successful relationship. This was my idea this morning after a TED Talk that I watched. I'm super excited for this. And Emilia agreed. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this podcast and so many others and spreading self-improvement, personal growth, mental health, and personal development and self-help into the world. The things the world desperately needs, including this episode right here. Thank you to anyone out there listening. We appreciate you as well. Sweetheart, ladies first, what is your intention?
My intention is for our conscious couples to have a successful relationship by working on this one skill of embodying what we're going to talk about.
All right, so first things first. This is the love train, the conscious couples train. And what conscious couples means is you get off of autopilot. All right, so anyone out there watching or listening, get off autopilot.
No. How do you do that?
Think about your thinking. All right.
There you go.
No, but real talk. Can you, and this is a hypothetical question, I don't necessarily want you to answer it because we already know the answer. Can you improve your relationship without improving yourself? Emilia's face on YouTube is, fuck no. It's basically what that said.
He said, don't answer it.
Yeah, I know. So you held yourself
We're
back.
straight.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, but I do think that no matter who you are out there watching or listening, you can try to change your aunts or your uncles or where you came from. You can try to change your parents or your siblings. But at the end of the day, if you want your life to improve, if you want your health to improve, if you want your relationship to improve, you're going to have to improve yourself. And I've been in a relationship in the past where I would work on myself. The relationship would struggle, and then I would go learn things and work on myself. And then the relationship would actually get worse. And eventually, over time, I realized, okay, I am not the issue, the core issue. We are not compatible. That is the core issue. But assuming you and your partner out there watching or listening are compatible, there's this one character trait that I attribute a lot of my success to, not just in relationships, but in health and wealth as well, which is a term called conscientiousness. This is one of my favorite words in the entire world. I can talk deeply about it, and I'm excited to do that. But first, I want to hear your take on conscientiousness. So can we talk about that briefly, and then we'll get into the TED Talk?
Well, when you recommended this episode, I wasn't against it, just for the record. But I definitely don't know if I could say that it is the one and only, but I can agree with you that conscientiousness is incredibly important for a successful relationship. So that you and I absolutely agree on. To that end, you and I had defined conscientiousness just before this, and I think it would be helpful for us to get that in this episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I remember first hearing this word was when I ran into, I want to say it was a class in college when we had done the Big 5 personality tests, and we had learned about this.
Yes.
From a behavioral analysis standpoint, and specifically like marketing.
What class?
I want to say it was like consumer behavior with a crossover between behavioral science. I
So
don't remember what it was.
Study who your products and services are best suited for.
Right, and serving for. Yes. And to that end, conscientiousness, it feels like this big old word, but really when you think about it in terms of the context of a relationship, this is a character trait that you likely have some degree of, but you haven't consciously, for the most part, worked on it, developed it, honed it like a skill. Mm-hmm. So you are one of the most conscientious persons I know. And
best compliment I could be given. One of the best. Yeah.
It's true.
I appreciate that very much.
So how would you define conscientiousness?
So this morning I do what I call my AM protein learning. And Emilia and I have a 115-inch projector that she got me for our anniversary. That is a movie theater. It's the best. And so I've been doing TED Talks on neuroscience lately for basically the last 3 weeks every morning. It's been awesome. Mm-hmm. And there was a neuroscience TEDx talk today that talked about someone that you knew of. As a matter of fact, Emilia was watering the plants and doing house things in the background, and she heard, Phineas Gage.
Gardening.
Yes, gardening. And Phineas Gage was someone who, I forget the exact story, but he was
an American construction foreman.
Yeah, and he would blast rock to pave ways for railroads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would work on railroads and make sure that would open up.
And you knew the name Phineas Gage because this is the most famous neuroscience study, like person who gets studied. So
yeah,
the short version of the story
I studied that in high school.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome because I was just like, what?
She was from across the house. She's like, Phineas Gage. And I was like, nice.
I remember learning about his story, and I know you'll go into it, and I'll kind of fill in what I know.
It was in the 1850s, and he was blowing rocks up to make ways for railroads. Mm-hmm. And he got a metal pole shot up through his chin and through the other side of his brain, and he lived.
In fact, if you Google him, you'll often see the iconic photo of him, which is what I saw in my books in high school, of one eye open and then the other one just completely like not really there because of just the angle of which the pole went through.
So he went blind in one eye. Is that true?
Yeah, I do believe. And just when studying him, it was, for me, I remember it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That is extraordinary. Imagine walking through life and then all of a sudden some horrible accident happens and next thing you know you have a pole sticking through your head and you're not dead. Like it just blew my mind that was even possible.
Same. So the reason we're talking about this in this episode is he lost his ability to be conscientious because the frontal lobes got destroyed. And he didn't lose his full ability, but apparently before that, he was a very conscientious individual. He was a foreman. He had his shit together. He was a responsible adult. Mm-hmm. And after that, he had no impulse control. Yeah. Do you want to talk at all about that before I define conscientiousness?
One of the things that you and I looked up before, and I remember learning back in high school, because I believe I studied this when I first studied professionally, right? Psychology. Yep. It was the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is essentially the part of the brain that is so actively involved in impulse control, executive functioning, and where quote unquote personality comes from.
Yeah.
But why I mention that is because ultimately, like when we talk about the Big 5, what I referenced earlier, when you have any area of that brain region disturbed or impacted, especially this, it changes everything about who you quote unquote are, the sense of self. And Phineas Gage was very famous in terms of how quickly that changed.
Yeah. Well, when you have a pole through your head, it's not surprising that there's some changes that happen. But let's go to conscientiousness. So conscientiousness is one of my favorite words of all time. Mm-hmm. And I remember the personality test. It's called Hexaco, Hexaco. Humility, extroversion. I don't remember the exact, but you can look this up. Hexaco, all caps. And in this personality test, it tests you on 26 facets of your personality. And one of them is conscientiousness. And then there's sub-facets. Conscientiousness breaks into 4 subcategories. And one of them is organization. How organized are you? Do you have your notebooks organized well? Your books? Do you have your desk? So Emilia, the studio is very well organized. Then the next is prudence, which is your ability to make intelligent decisions. You love prudence.
Love that word.
The ability to make effective choices. So everyone picture a drunken toddler who, obviously not a drunken one, but a toddler running around emotionally and they can't make good choices.
Sleepy toddler.
Super sleepy toddler is better. Yeah. I don't know how many drunken toddlers. Yeah.
I hope there's not. Yeah. Please don't imagine that.
Yeah, don't imagine that. Okay, well, picture a intimate partner, though, seriously, who stays out late, comes home drunk, drives drunk, doesn't care about how their decisions impact others. They come in, they stomp their shoes on the house, they don't clean up after themselves.
Miss out on putting the kids to bedtime.
Yeah, exactly. Someone who's completely irresponsible and just is constantly pursuing their own narcissistic pleasures. That's someone who has very low conscientiousness. So we use green, yellow, red at the Conscious Couples podcast. So think about your partner, think about yourself, and put yourself as green, yellow, red. And all we care about is accuracy here. We own it. And I'm so grateful that you said I'm the most conscientious person that you know, because I work on that every single day.
Yeah, I see you working on it every single day.
Thank you. And in the past, when I was younger, I wasn't as conscientious. So number 1 is organization. How organized are you? Green, yellow, or red? I want everyone to walk away with a self-assessment at very least, and then obviously assess your partner. So organized, Emilia is green. Prudence, the ability to make effective decisions in almost all areas, she's green. You're like, what areas am I not? How dare you?
No. I think it's probably like how to put the kettle corn in the microwave and not burn it. That I'm a full red on.
Nice.
No shame in that.
If you want pizza cooked, you'll either get it not cooked at all and basically flabby, for lack of better phrasing, or completely crisp and burnt.
I'll change your life up here, but don't ask me to cook a pizza or kettle corn.
We're playful.
Or popcorn.
But yeah, you just never focus on it, which is fine.
Beautiful. So
but
organization,
I gotta cook my own pizzas.
Prudence.
Yeah, organization, prudence, diligence, which is work ethic.
Yum.
And organization, prudence, diligence, and perfectionism. Perfectionism in Hexaco is not a bad thing. It's you're very thorough and thoughtful. And you double check your work, 6 Sigma, 3 defects per million transactions. You're constantly trying to make sure that you do things better and better and better and better. Now, conscientiousness, of course, is one of my favorite things in the entire world. It's also something I've worked on. I picture the 2 extremes, right? On one end, you have sort of people who consider themselves very robotic, organized, always making effective choices, very productive, very responsible adults. They're on time for the most part. They are people you trust with your money, you trust with your heart. You can trust them with the household, you can trust them with a business. And on the other end of that extreme is a toddler who's screaming into a pillow 1 second and then excited as hell the next. And I think that unfortunately a lot of us know this. Some 70-year-olds act like 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And some... where is the expiration date on being an infant? And I'm not trying to be unkind. I want to be honest here. Like,
in other words, emotionally immature.
Yes. People say maturity comes with age.
Hell no.
No. Sometimes maturity comes alone. Everyone out there watching or listening, think of someone in your life who is above the age of 30, who throws hissy fits like a toddler, and who is not conscientious. They're not organized. They're a mess. They don't make effective long-term decisions. They can't save money to save their life. They don't double-check their work. They're not thorough. They can't text well, and they can't spell anything right. And they are not hardworking. They're actually very lazy. That person, would you trust them to grow the company? No. So what we want in life is to be conscientious adults. And hopefully you want to marry one. And Emilia is by far the highest conscientiousness of anyone I've ever known or ever met, certainly ever dated.
Oh, yeah.
And my life gets better. I was in my office earlier and I was thinking to myself, it's so awesome to know that Emilia is always trying to make our life better.
Trying.
Yeah, and I was on with Kev, and I was doing business stuff, tracking my metrics, and I was thinking, right now, she's making our life better. Always. And how much, it's like there's two of me. It's the coolest thing ever. And I'm glad you laughed at that. But it's...
I feel that way about you sometimes.
Isn't it the
That's why
best?
I'm giggling.
It's like... Yeah. Double the pleasure, double the fun. No, but in the past, double mint gum. It's a little before your time, love. I'm 37, she's 31, so every now and then there's things she hasn't seen that I have.
It's fun.
But in real talk, let's bring this to you. You coach couples, so do I. You coach individuals. I think you're coaching what, like 18 people right now or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm coaching 25 people, and most of them are in relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
And some of their intimate partners, I think, are a fucking mess. It's straight up. And I want to be honest about it, and I don't want to be unkind, but they could really come up in conscientiousness. And I think that would help them. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this because if you are dating someone with low conscientiousness, they're going to hurt your heart constantly, especially when they're tired.
I appreciate you saying that. And one of the things that I have seen, and I want to make sure that I bring into this episode, conscientiousness, when we talk about where this lies in our ventromedial prefrontal cortex. These areas of the brains that are higher levels of development require, for lack of better words, more exercise and more years in the quote unquote mental gym than something like extroversion, let's say.
Which is impulse control would be an example, right? So someone who can't not watch Netflix or can't not pick up their phone. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I'm with you in the fact that there are a lot of couples and people who are in relationships, and one person, if we were to do a Myers-Briggs Big 5 personality test, or if we were to do Hexaco on them.
Have you ever studied Hexaco at all?
No.
You would love it.
I know, you've said that multiple times.
Oh, it's by far the best.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to study.
I will call out my own bias in this. Yeah. It's way better than the other ones. It's way better. I've studied now again, study, Enneagram, all these different ones. Hexaco's the best, in my opinion. It's the most comprehensive. I'm going to have my own at some point. It's the best. Hexaco's the best.
I understand.
Okay, yeah. I'm excited
He's
for you
an advocate.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate. And I'm shocked that you haven't studied it, because Emilia, when you date Emilia, you realize she knows almost everything, which is the best. Nice. She's very humble about it. Yeah,
I know everything.
No,
including definitely how to burn popcorn.
But I can't believe, babe, you will love it.
I probably have studied it, just not extremely focused and deep. Unless it's at a level 10, I understand.
No, I want to do this episode more than you.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the most important of the Hexaco. Yeah, continue.
So one of the things, and what I was saying, was the fact that to actually be quote unquote conscientious, I think it's really important to have a conversation about what actually allows that to be possible.
Yeah.
And most couples will have someone that's extremely high conscientious.
Yes.
And not as much.
Yep.
Of course, you two aren't going to be the same exact humans. And that is important. You guys balance each other out for multiple different reasons. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about what allows that to be possible, it genuinely is development of the brain. So I was saying, the mental gym, the compound effect of emotional regulation, the compound effect of emotional maturity, the compound effect of delaying gratification is directly involved with conscientiousness. I know that from side research that I've done specifically towards this. So when we think about this, and when we think about couples who want to be more conscientiousness, I would love to have a conversation about some of the meta skills that enable that to be possible. Because even just when we think about Hexaco, right? Organization is one pillar.
Self-discipline underpins it.
Yes. I know that so many people are really struggling now more than ever at staying focused, right? Because for whatever reason, we can throw in 1,000 that we have there, but ultimately focus is a really big skill. And it is difficult to remain disciplined in your focus that allows your attention to not go everywhere. Okay, now let's talk about another thing. What allows focus to happen? Sleep hygiene.
Let's give one each from both of us, so everyone can leave this episode not too overwhelmed. But what's one thing that you would have them work on to increase conscientiousness? Because at the end of the day, we all get it. If you have an intimate partner who acts like a toddler, the long-term relationship is going to suck. We get it. But you don't also, and a lot of people have an aversion to this because it's like, well, I don't want to be boring. Yeah, well, you also need to be successful and an adult at some point. So at the end of the day, you and I are fun and playful all the time behind the scenes, but we also have conscientiousness. So what's the one thing you would have our listeners focus on if they wanted to build conscientiousness?
It's two-part. The first one is what we refer to as the DEM score, which is the time spent in deep and REM sleep.
Nice.
In other words, if you want to hone that in, it's the amount of time that your brain is spiking in the delta waves.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part of this is, what does that translate to? Perspective taking. I think perspective taking, meaning the ability to jump into, you and I were talking about this with a shared client that you and I have, that very few people jump into the shoes, also otherwise known as empathy. But conscientious is taking empathy and cranking it up to 10.
So it's me imagining what it's like to be in your shoes.
Exactly.
It's me imagining what it's like to be a politician and a lawyer and an engineer.
But it's not just imagination. And that's why I want to make that distinction. I don't mean to cut you off, but I really want to make sure that this lands. Because if someone's going to apply what we say, I really want to make sure that I say that it's not just imagination. It is imagining, yes, yourself in someone else's shoes, but your partner's shoes in the time that they are in their life, meaning the chapter that they're in the season in their career that they're in, with the relationships that they have and the stress levels that they have and the sleep that they've had that day. So conscientiousness takes in all those spokes of the wheel. And that's why imagination is absolutely critical for that. Yeah. But is that accessible if you don't get great sleep? No.
Yeah, because the brain doesn't function well.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm just going to say a couple things here. So conscientiousness is being respectful. Mm-hmm. Conscientiousness is putting yourself in other people's shoes. Conscientiousness is being on time. Conscientiousness is using a calendar. Conscientiousness is understanding the implications of what you say, think, do, feel, and believe. Conscientiousness is trying to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. All of these things, I think, fall. So Emilia says the DEM score, which is deep and REM sleep. We use Oura rings, but you can use your Fitbit, Apple Watch, whatever. Mm-hmm. The only wrong answer is to not track your sleep. Very important. And for me, it would be self-discipline. We have words all around our house.
We love words.
We love words.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We do.
Conscientiousness needs to be one. We should get one. But in what we call the nook in our home, you have a framed glass picture of the word discipline.
Defined.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Discipline and definition.
The ability, and this is my paraphrasing, the ability to do the shit you should do when you don't feel like doing it. But the truth is, if you don't have any self-discipline or self-respect or self-belief or self-efficacy or self-control, you are going to end up looking like a toddler or being like a toddler. And I think that it can be fun and funny to not be perfect, and we're not asking anyone to be perfect. But at the end of the day, if you don't have self-discipline, your future cannot be bright. And if you can't go on Amazon without buying a bunch of shit, and I coach so many people, I see some of their partners holding them back. And more importantly, some of my clients don't have the courage to call them out.
Yeah.
And I'll give this anonymous example of one of the people I coach. He came to his wife and he said, if I see another Amazon package on our front door, and I'm like, good for you, because it's not just her money, right? And I do think there's a line. Obviously, she gets to do what she wants. She's an autonomous human being who's independent. But where do you draw the line? And so that's what I would end this with is, sweetheart, how do we help our listeners who probably on the higher end of conscientiousness, because you wouldn't like us otherwise,
Fair.
How do you help them get their partners to care a little more about self-discipline and sleep and getting better and growing and being more responsible adults?
I know it's going to sound like a opposite answer, but it's kind of, you don't get them to do anything. What you do instead is actually reveal what's happening inside of you and how that impacts you. Because you could try to get your partner to change their behavior, but which is extrinsic motivation, but unless they have within themselves intrinsically motivating them to change behavior or getting them to do whatever.
Well, what would they do? Are they just calling things out or sharing their truth?
You're sharing the truth inside of you. That's why, you know, for that person to say that, right? I think that's a direct way of kind of an attacking And yes, good for him.
But that's only because he let it go for so long.
Right.
And she was just buying a bunch of stuff that they didn't need.
I actually and I appreciate that so much as a conscious consumer and someone who is an environmentalist at the core. And I would strongly say that after letting that build so long, that's a cowardly way to handle something like this. And to increase in conscientiousness is to share what's happening inside of you
along the way
when that happens. Exactly. So for example, it would be like, babe, every time I see a package, I get a little nervous or concerned. And my fear is that we're not spending our money, or we're not investing our money in the areas that need to happen right now. And here's blah, 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 right? You share that.
Yeah.
Sharing that and what's going on inside of you, it's also triggering my fear that we'll end up poor or whatever it is. Whatever's happening inside of you, share and focus on that. And I think that from there, ask and make a request. I would really love for us to work on conscientiousness in our relationship. And what that means to me is fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. In the future, would you please try to reduce or to stop buying whatever, right? Like that's the request. And I think that from there, if you don't see change after 3 weeks, inquire 100%. And after that, then I think you can actually really start to call them forward and invite them into a uncomfortable conversation for sure.
Yeah. So to wrap this in a bow, everyone picture someone in their life who you would bet on. Imagine you believe this person's going to be healthy, wealthy, and in love. And if they're healthy, wealthy, and in love, you get $1 million. Who would you bet on? You can only pick one person. So close your eyes, everybody, if you're not driving, and think of the person that 10 years from now you think has the highest probability of statistical success in being healthy, wealthy, and in love in 10 years. That person that you chose, I am willing to bet, has very high conscientiousness. So back to the original point of this episode, the most important character trait to having a successful, long-term, intimate relationship is conscientiousness. You cannot imagine a CEO of a successful company who doesn't have a calendar and responsibilities and self-discipline and good sleep and those kinds of things. Now, occasionally there are exceptions to that rule. I'm thinking of one right now that I'm not going to name. But at the end of the day, for the most part, conscientiousness, I think, is something that is wildly undertaught and underappreciated. Before we get out of here, speaking of conscientiousness, so if you resonate with this show, you are of the few people who do, and I'm super, super grateful for you. And what I mean by that is most of the videos on YouTube that do really well are a lot of like, wah, rah, rah, like just entertaining candy.
Yeah.
I always say we are selling kale outside of a candy store. That's what it feels like. You most likely have high conscientiousness. If you want to jack up your probability of statistical success, and you want to be the person that when they close their eyes and ask that question, they think of you, because remember, everyone wants to be on a winning team. They don't come and tell you this. No one comes up to me and says, hey, Alan, can I be on your team? You're really conscientious, and I know you're going to be successful in the future. And I want to be healthy, wealthy, and in love and on your team.
Right.
Instead, they just say, hey, can I coach with you, or whatever it is. So if you want to increase your conscientiousness, the best way to do that is to get around other people who have high conscientiousness. It will rub off on you. Emilia and I's clients have increased their conscientiousness exponentially since we started working together. And Relationship Talks Coaching, I promise you it's more affordable than you think. Please reach out to myself or Emilia, DM us on Instagram or email us. The information will be in the show notes. Sweetheart, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
And if you happen to be like, I want to kind of get around them in a group setting before one-on-one, we have that available for you for free as well. And that's where Relationship Talks events come in. If you've heard us talk about that, it's something that we are obsessed with. Every single month, we make sure that there's a meaningful topic that the conscious couples community really does care about and that has been struggling with. And so the next topic that we have is going to be actually when this episode launches, it's going to be in 3 days. So click the link in the show notes to register. It's going to be, the topic is the top 3 things men struggle with in their relationship. Men, we see you. We have seen the statistics. Men are struggling in relationships now more than ever.
So
by
real quick,
the way,
you coach a bunch of men.
A ton of men.
Okay, what is the thing that you would share with them that would make them want to come to this event? What do they need? How will this help them?
They need a lot, but the most important thing I would say is the permission slip to feel. And I know that sounds already, you're going to be like, what the hell?
For our
Screw that.
female listeners that are out there watching or listening, and you really want your husband or partner or male counterpart to come to a growth event in a safe space, off camera, not having to participate if they don't want to, what would you say to them?
By the end of this event, your partner will be more self-aware than you've been trying to get them to be for the last X amount of years that you've been together.
Okay, last question for you. You also coach a lot of women who have partners that are maybe reluctant to grow, or they feel like they're dragging them up a mountain of growth. What should they share with their partner? What would you think increase the probability that their male counterparts would come to something like this without feeling attacked? Because quite frankly, Emilia
You can't
had
really
me.
control that, though.
Well, Emilia suggested therapy to me years ago, and it's been transformative.
Yeah.
And you did a great job. So, but I also have conscientiousness, so I don't know.
For sure. I think that one of the ways in which might be aligned for the women in the room, again, to this kind of component that we addressed in this topic, you can't get them to do anything. You can only share with them what is happening inside.
I mean,
you.
influence. You can't control anyone,
I know.
but you can influence.
To that end, what I would suggest is I believe you're leaving a lot on the table by not showing up here. And what that's doing is activating that quote unquote competitive spirit that is in men and women.
Yeah.
And I think that I know that, and it's
what do
documented.
men get? Instead of like, because that's not going to sell a man. Oh, I get to feel more. That's not going to sell them.
I know.
What will it help them do? Have better, deeper intimacy?
I was just going to say, it will help them have that connection that leads to what they care about.
Which is?
A lot of them just care about sex.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's direct there, but ultimately your chances of deeper intimacy for sure increases to the degree that your female or your woman feels safe, heard, and valued, because you're not struggling with these things alone and you're not asking them to be your therapist anymore.
Yes, and your female counterpart, speaking to the men out there, will be far more fulfilled, and you'll have a much more meaningful relationship, deeper connection, and more success.
Hell yeah.
Because you guys will be on a team. So we hope that you come. The registration link, it'll be totally free. It's on Zoom, totally private. These are private, non-recorded events. We hope to see you there. And as always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please check the show notes to connect with us and say hello on social media.
If you and your partner resonated with this episode, please leave us a 5-star review at the link in the show notes and share this with someone you love. Until next time, it's not about you or me, it's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.